over the last 4 or 5 years since I've lived up here, there's been various times when we've met with the community, and may not have been just about the ferry, but it might have been about the ferry being taken out of the water for its AMSA inspection, or the different ramps, or even the roadworks recently. Council take those informal chats and keep it in their back of their mind, and we get projects like this where we pick up on some of those ideas. So I know some of the questions that we've got answers to today, and that's because we've listened over the years. There were council surveys that were run prior to me even coming up here to live. Obviously, information as to where we are now has driven the fact that we're having this one ferry, this bigger ferry as well. There's been site-based interaction. When I first arrived, I thought a great thing to do, even though I used to come up here as a tourist for year after year after year, was to actually walk up and down the road. And then somebody would see that I had a council pop on, and they'd wind down the window and either say have a nice day or something else. But to me, that was a site-based introduction, because when you're on the ground, that's when you find out from people exactly what's and how they feel about things. So I did that. I took hundreds of photos, a lot of video footage. Then I sat down and started to read all the information that had been backwards and forwards from the community to the elected members and to the executive over years before I arrived. I need to be informed before I even start this project. So that was my background. Before I arrived here, council engaged GHD to do a traffic report. So they did a traffic report based on all the figures we provided. They obviously did some counts on the road as well. And then they did some forecasts and what they thought the projected vehicles would be over the years. They come up with some recommendations that they thought may also sort out the problem that we've got about queue lengths, wait times, all that type of thing. So that's just another input into this design that we've come up with. We had to undertake geotechnical investigations because we had to know whether it was actually possible, especially on this side of the river, whether we could put additional lanes in. If you look at it now, you look at it and go, it's just the swamp that side, it's just the swamp that side. These guys and their engineers will come up with the best possible solution to the concept design that we put up. So all those geotechnical inputs went into our concept design as well. We met with Shire and their government agencies. So there's various government agencies as well that are involved in this. So back in, it was December 2020, I think, 2021. We sat down with a group of government representatives from around Queensland. They're obviously all on video hookups. And we provided them the concept drawing that came out of all these inputs, for them to tell us whether that was actually practical and whether at the end of the day we'd get approval to do what we wanted to do. Now, we're a fair way down the path, 4 years down the path, and we're still working with them, but I'm confident that that is all fine now. So we've spoken to the ferry... Sorry, it's a state assessment referral agency. So SARA was set up by the Queensland government. So when a developer actually wants to go and talk about development, they don't have to talk to 7, 8 different government departments. So State Assessment Referral Agency, they are the coordinator of any communication for a developer, and they are the middleman. So they'll coordinate any discussions we have. So we can get frustrated with all the legislation. They understand all the legislation as well. Yep, sorry about that. I'll try not to use acronyms. We've spoken to ferry operators. So I have spoken to Chris and Charmaine. I get on well with both of them. We've spoken to Entrada over the time as well. We've spoken to the guys who are actually on the deck. We've spoken to the guys in the wheelhouse to get some inputs as well about what works well for them and what doesn't. We've done various site surveys. RPS have been up and down the road doing surveys for the last couple of years as well. Of course, I see a couple of councillors come in the room, so they are receiving emails from the constituents all the time. So those emails are feedback to me as a project manager and what the community actually wants. And we did listen, and like I said at the meeting earlier, our concept design that we've come up with, it's turning into the design, is about meeting those objectives of making sure that we're providing the priority lane on this side of the river. 2, we're addressing the queuing wait times and the queue lengths as well. So the design addresses those 3 issues, and it also addresses the 4th one that I looked at and saw straight away in Forest Creek Road, how dangerous that intersection can be at times and how difficult it is for people who live in Forest Creek Road to get home overnight when they're travelling back after work from this end. We've had various meetings internally with all the stakeholders at the council, so with all the teams, the assets teams. I don't know how many workshops I've held over the years with the executive and with the councillors, but we've held numerous workshops as well to get to the stage, and also informally with some of the bus tour operators around the issues they have for parking on this side of the river, waiting for the croc tours to arrive. So that's a little bit of a background. The various reports that we've had to put together for the government agencies and even for ourselves as the council, from the geotechnical investigations, we've done flora fauna surveys, we've done protected plant surveys, ecological assessments, environmental management plans. There's cultural heritage assessment that's been done, and we met with the traditional owners this morning on site as well to talk about some of the things there. We've done hydrographic surveys, flood modelling reports showing us the issues when the river floods or after large weather events, how it impacts the roads leading to the ferry. And we've obviously got and prepared the development application that's currently sitting with council and will be referred back to SARA and the government agencies as well. So the project timelines to now. All that information, those inputs led up to pre-2021. In 2021, we met with an organisation down in Cairns and sat around a table and gone, these are the inputs that we need to achieve the objectives for this whole project. And they come up with concept design. That concept design is the design that we put out to tender for our civil contractors, and obviously part of what we showed when we went out for the ferry contract as well. We did a presentation to SARA in November 2021. Out of that, and I've touched on it, is that each of the heads of those departments gave us advice. So that's a pre-advice meeting with a state assessment referral agency, because you really need to know exactly what they want before you start taking off down a track. So we met with them, they came back with a report in January 2022 with their findings, with their recommendations, for us to know exactly what investigations we need to run moving forward over the last 3 years. And it has been a long 3 years, but we have everything available for them now. Like I said, we had various workshops with the elected members and the council executive. We went through a landside procurement process that commenced in August 2024. Shortlisted, did our evaluations and selected Durex Civil to deliver that. So we've been working with them over the last few months, going through the various stages of the design. So we've reviewed the 30% stage. We've only just reviewed the 70% stage 2 weeks ago. And in the next 3 weeks, we're hoping to have that final design. So we're heading in the right direction. We're hitting all of the dates, so they're the dates that we actually sat down and discussed with Durek at the time, so we are on track for the design. Of course, we've got our DAs and all that happening in the background and running parallel as well. So the other thing that we did, we started the ferry procurement process, and that started in September 2024. That was a process that didn't start with just going out on vendor panel and selecting organisations around Australia that could build and operate a ferry, but it was actually sitting with a maritime law firm and talking about our previous experience around contracts and operating a ferry. We have learnt, and we're not going down the same path again. So we've invested in a quite amazing maritime law firm. They're right across Australia. And they produced the contract document that we went out to tender. These guys put an offer in, and they were the successful contractor. So, and I know they put a lot of time into it. They'll touch on that as well. So we're very happy to have Burden on board as the designer, builder, and the operator of their ferry for 20 years, and the operator of our vessel from July 1 next year through to whenever that new ferry arrives in the river, which we're hoping will be December 2027. But they'll talk about that more as well. We reconvened with SARA in December at the end of last year to give them an update of where we're at with all of the reporting and all the environmentals that we had to do. They're happy with our progress. So that's where we're at now. We're ready to roll. We're on site having a look at issues with Telstra, with our traditional owners, and I think we're in a good place now. Project funding sources come up at a question before. So we've actually got, and I'm talking about the Landside infrastructure works here. We have secured over $13 million to do this work. That $13 million is made up of $6.2 million from the Queensland Reconstruction Authority through Crucial Access Links program. We've secured $3.4 million from what we call TIDS, which is the Transport Infrastructure Development Scheme, and that's the Queensland Government working with local government, and Douglas Shire Council are contributing $3.4 million. So that's the funding of this landside infrastructure project. It's a good slide to have because there were some people before thinking that the council were contributing the full $13.1 million and how that would impact rates moving forward. But we've managed to secure 75% of the funding from the Queensland Government through the various programs. It wasn't meant to be funny, but for those that can remember Tetris or call it what you will, is that we've now got all of our plans in place, and this is the stage where, even though I'm the project manager and I've got a very good site manager working with me, is that these guys need to put those programs together. And I'm very confident between Jurek and Burden, and there'll be a lot of communication backwards and forwards, is that we will reach our target dates as we've promised all the way down the track. The only thing that can stop us is, let's not say, another large weather event, but we're looking at having December 2027, all the landside infrastructure in place. And without taking some of your kudos, but I'm sure you'll share that with the group as to when the works will commence on site and how that will progress over the next 2 years before these guys bring their new vessel up the river. So thank you. Looking forward to a few questions afterwards. But yeah, thank you. Great to see so many people in the room.